Yo, everyone. Hey, welcome to a special draft edition of the Springboard Plancha podcast. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently here for just a little while. Both of my co-hosts are on temporary hiatuses right now, but they'll be back soon enough. But for now, I'm going to be holding down the fort for the SPP because I'm not going to let this die. So I'm not going to let this show die. Like, there's so many elements in this world that are telling us to let this thing die, and we are not going to do that. I'm not going to let that happen. I'll be more than happy to hold down the fort for my boys for now. But I did want to come on here and talk a little draft with y'all. So I'm doing this a little bit differently than I normally would. The biggest thing is that, as you can see, where I'm not using our typical podcast layout because it's just me by myself. So a little square of me and a background full of nothing, or full of a background image, probably wouldn't be the best look. So I decided for now, until I might tweak things up maybe later on in the week for the next show. But I figure what I would do is I would do a half and half. So half of me, and I'm going to give you the other half of the screen share that I have right now, which is basically just a Chrome tab that's open, which I kind of don't like that you can see all of my bookmarks there. There's nothing bad. It's honestly all old work related stuff, to be honest with you guys. Like it's not even I don't even care, to be honest. Honestly, all this stuff is all old work stuff that I used to have. I don't know if there's a way to get rid of the viewing of the book. Like, there we go. Okay, we'll just do that for now. It's nothing bad. It's not porn, I swear. It's just it's just all my old bookmarks and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. But anyways, so I think there's like a pulled pork barbecue recipe on there, and then some old work links and stuff like that. So nothing that I would have been like, oh shit, like, oh my god, you don't need to be seeing that. But no. But anyways, guys, since the last time that we got off, I know that the last show was kind of crazy. There was a lot of heated conversation between me and Cheese about stuff that with the draft coming up, and then with Becky Lynch winning the women's world championship. And I want to, for one, if Cheese is watching this, I wanted to tell him first off and foremost that I hope you're doing okay, man. And I'm sorry about I'm very, very, very sorry about what happened and about the conversation that we had. It was a little bit more heated than I think it needed to be. I think there was just a lot of things in play in that conversation, and I did not mean to do that. And hey, Kenneth, welcome to the show. It was nothing bad. I mean, I could actually, honestly, I could pull those bookmarks back up and I could let you see what the bookmarks were. It's just kind of, I know, it's just an eyesore to see the bookmarks bar there. I do not bookmark porn sites. I don't use my computer for porn, so none of that is gonna be on this computer, unless you. But yeah, everything on that bookmarks bar is just random stuff, to be honest. So nothing to worry about. I have nothing to hide on that one. But anyways, yeah, so getting into the draft, right? We had the night one of the draft on last Friday, and we had night two just last night. So the draft is fully complete at this point. So I thought I would just kind of go over the current rosters as they are and kind of see what kind of changes that we had for Raw and SmackDown, and also a little bit of where NXT goes from here. So on night one, I know that there was 4 rounds of the draft, and the way that it worked was you had 4 rounds, and each had 4 picks, right? So round 1 consisted of 4 picks, round 2 consisted of 4, so on and so forth. And then there were additional social media picks that happened off camera. And then they did the same thing on Monday, except they did an additional 6 rounds on Monday, and then of course did some more social media ones. So So I thought I would just go over and share it with you here so y'all can follow it along with me. This is off of ewrestlingnews.com, and looking at Raw's current roster, the additions to the roster for and the weird thing about this draft too is that everybody was eligible with the exception of champions. So champions were not eligible to be drafted, and Roman Reigns was a personal exception. He exceptioned himself from being able to be drafted, so he remains on SmackDown. But everybody else, with the exception of champions, were there and available to be drafted. And if there's one thing before I even get into the rosters here real quick that I want to go over, I do think personally that the way that the draft is structured right now, I think that needs to go away. I don't think that it's very fun. I mean, it's nice they bring in legends to do the picks and whatnot, and to announce them and stuff like that. But it's just so much little impact in how they're presented, in the form of that round one is you go for your 4 picks and you go bop 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 bop, and you almost give no time to kind of let the pick kind of manifest. I remember a time, maybe less than 15 years ago or so, where you would watch the draft and they would do like, here's Raw's pick, and they would do that flashing image thing that was kind of cool, or they would just kind of like bop, 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 and then you would get the wrestler that is picked, and in that moment, it was like sometimes it was a shock, or sometimes it was just like oh, okay, whatever. But either way, it gave you a moment to kind of give you a gasp moment, like oh my God, John Cena's going to SmackDown, or Batista's going to SmackDown, or whatever, right? And it gave you those kinds of moments to be able to sit there and feel shocked about what just happened, right? And in today's draft, this is the second year that they've done this 4 pick per round format. I think this might actually be the 3rd year that they've done this, but from what I know, it's the 2nd time. So with that being said, it just kind of takes the excitement about it, because the number 1 overall pick was Bianca Belair, but you only had like a minute to like take it in before they announced the next pick, and then the next one, and the next one. So I think it kind of took away from the big impact that it had of Bianca Belair being, at least to me, I don't know, maybe to everybody else that you kind of felt like, oh, that was cool, like that's nice. But I kind of felt like having her and then bunching her in with three other wrestlers and superstars kind of takes away from that big, like, let's take a moment to kind of take it all in and be like, wow. And then we go on to the 2nd pick and the 3rd pick and so on and so forth. I understand why they feel they probably have to do it this way, because there's only so much time on a show that they can do. Like it would be hard for them to do, 10 picks per night, although I feel like they've done that before. And what they've done in the past, what I can remember, is that they've done things like they have like 10 picks, right? And then they do it like each roster gets 10 picks, right? They're going to be shown on TV, and then all the rest of them are going to be done off of TV. And you either see them on social media or on WWE.com. And they've done it like that in the past. So they do it like this so they can get as many on TV as possible. I guess that's how they decide to do it. But it feels like it just takes away from the kind of surprise aspect of it. So the format, I'm not really a fan of. I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think, if y'all liked the draft format. But I was not a fan, and I think maybe that's to be something they should look into for next year as we go into the shows moving to Netflix and SmackDown moving back to USA. Maybe they can do something different in the future for the draft. But with that being said, let's go over what changes were made and what changes weren't made. Night 1 consisted of a lot of the people staying. Most of the people stayed where they were already at, and there was just a few minor changes. Night 2 did bring some more changes. I think there was about 19 superstars that changed brands collectively from Night 2. So Night 2 was more of a shakeup than Night 1 was. But as it stands right now, Raw kept Imperium. They drafted Imperium in night 2, so they stay on the Raw roster. Damage Control moves from SmackDown to Raw, which I think that'll be good for them. Kind of gives them a fresh breath of air. And they already teased on last night's Raw. They already teased a potential feud with Becky if that's where they decide to go with that. And so there's already something for them to do there. CM Punk got drafted to Raw, so he stays on Raw. Braun Strowman made his triumphant return after being out for I think almost over a year with a neck injury after having neck surgery and whatnot. So good to see Braun Strowman back in the fold and looking big as ever and whatnot. And so he'll be running that train that he likes to do. Although, oh man, that's a bad choice of words. Sorry, but not the best choice of words there, Johnny T. But but Braun Strowman makes his triumphant return. He'll be on Raw. The whole entire LWO is drafted to Raw, including Carlito, who I guess even though he attacked, was revealed to be the attacker of Dragon Lee last Friday. I'm guessing that he's still a part of it because he moves over to Raw along with all the other members of the LWO. So we'll see what happens with them. They had a funny interaction. Ray had a funny interaction with Dom, who's injured right now, is in a cast and whatnot, or in a sling or whatever. And that was kind of funny, telling him, "Oh, what's up?" Said a pretty don't do it if there's any underage people watching the stream right now. Do not look up Dirty Sanchez on the internet. But yeah, that's what Ray called Dom because of his mustache. Don't look it up, or don't say I didn't warn you. Drew McIntyre stays on Raw. I thought that was a good pick for him to stay there. The Judgment Day stays on Raw. Ilya Dragunov gets pulled from NXT to Raw, and I kind of saw that one coming from a mile away. I think he's done about all he could on the NXT roster. So good for him. He gets a chance to spread his wings a little bit. And we'll see what he does. And him, Ilya Dragunov, and Gunther are both on Raw. So, oh my God, and I hope they decide to do that feud. If you've never seen that, go to the network on Peacock and look up Ilya Dragunov's and Gunther's matches from NXT UK. Oh man, they're going to be cooking whenever they decide to do that rivalry again. Whenever they decide to do that, I would even like to see if maybe Gunther tries to maybe try to recruit Ilya Dragunov into Imperium now that they X'd out Giovanni Vinci. So, well, there's a lot of things they can do with Ilya Dragunov on the main roster. I think he belongs there. I think it's his time to shine, and we'll see how it goes with that one. The New Day stays on Raw, serviceable tag team. Lyra Valkyria is also a former women's NXT Women's Champion who gets moved over to Raw to bolster up the women's roster there on Raw. The Final Testament moves from SmackDown to Raw, so now you have the Judgment Day and the Final Testament both on Raw, which I think will be very, very interesting to see how those two heel factions interact. In fact, most of the factions in WWE are pretty much all heels when you think about it. So it'll be interesting to see how two of the same kind of type of heel factions, if they will be able to mesh on the same show. So that one will be interesting, although they really haven't done much of anything on SmackDown, so a move to Raw is probably needed for them. Let's keep going down the list. Bronson Reed stays on Raw. Main event Jey Uso stays on Raw. Seth Rollins stays on Raw, and he just had successful meniscus repair surgery, I think about a week or two ago. So once again, sending the best wishes to Seth Rollins and his recovery, and hope he gets back soon. But when he does, he'll be on Raw. He'll be back on Raw. Braun Breaker actually, surprisingly to me, moves from SmackDown to Raw, and that one was kind of surprising to me because I feel like just 3 or so weeks ago we were sold on Braun Breaker signing a contract with the SmackDown brand, and he was kind of doing a lot of squash matches to build himself up on the SmackDown, and now he moves to Raw. So that was kind of an interesting one there, but we'll see what Braun Breaker does now that he's on the red brand. Liv Morgan stays on Raw. She's now in a very, very heated feud with Becky Lynch. Her ring work and promo work, like we've been talking about, has been just fantastic. We had a very, very heated discussion about whether or not she should have won that battle royal last week. If you want to hear about that conversation that me and Cheese had, the videos in the on our channel, go ahead and go back to last week's episode to see our conversation about that. Yeah, Liv Morgan's promo work versus Becky last night was really, really good, but it was still a pretty much babyface promo. Still haven't seen the full heel turn that I think they may be going with Liv Morgan here, but still haven't seen it. So hoping for that, because I think that'll definitely bump up the intensity in this feud. They are not going to have a match at Backlash between these two women. I guess they're going to save that for a later date. I think that's okay, because I think they need to start adding some wood to this fire. Maybe this is going to be a little bit of a slower burn as we wait for Mommy to make her return at some point. Then we got Ricochet, who stays on Raw as well. He'll be competing for the Speed Championship to become the first ever WWE Speed Champion. That should be posted on WWE's X account tomorrow. The finals for the Speed tournament are tomorrow, so we'll see if by next Monday Ricochet shows up with a new belt on his waist. Sheamus, who made his return a couple weeks ago, will remain on Raw. Good to see him back, even though people like to make fun of his weight. I don't think that's... I mean, you can make fun, I guess, if you want to, but the dude literally had neck fusion surgery and came back a little less than a year of being gone. So I'll give the guy a little bit of a break. I'm sure he'll get back into shape soon enough, but good to see him back regardless. And it looks like maybe they will continue that feud between him and Drew. I wouldn't mind seeing that match take place maybe like at a Clash at the Castle at some point, but we'll see if they continue that one. All four members of the Alpha Academy stay on Raw. Chad Gable, Otis, Akira Tozawa, and Maxine Dupree all stay on Raw, and that's good. I think that's a good thing too, because the rivalry between him and Sammy has just begun, and heel Chad Gable is the best thing on Raw right now, in my opinion. There's a lot of things that are good on Raw, sure, but that's the best thing. And I think they're doing a really, really good job so far with Chad Gable's heel turn, making his faction have to work a little bit seriously, mad dogging them last week, and then this week continuing on that same format. He took a surprise haluva kick from Sami Zayn in the backstage area, but then Chad Gable interfered in the match between him and Bronson Reed and just continued to beat down Sami Zayn for the second time in as many weeks. So I'm looking forward to see where they go with that feud. I do think at some point, if they do want to continue that feud, they want to kind of stretch it out a little bit, I think Chad Gable has got to win the Intercontinental Championship. If he doesn't, then I think you're going to miss out on an opportunity to build up Chad Gable to something even higher, because I think he has it. And I think with this heel character, I think they could really, really have something here. And a lot of people like to compare the two, and I think it's rightfully so, because they got the same kind of background and whatnot. But this could have Kurt Angle kinds of success levels to it if you do it the right way. Granted, Kurt Angle and Chad Gable are a little bit of a different size, but I think you could have something there here, and we'll see where it goes. But it's good to see that the entire Alpha Academy stays on Raw, so they can continue their story there. Kiana James is another NXT call up that's gonna boost. It's gonna boost up the women's division. Ivar, surprisingly, who I thought might be getting maybe sent to NXT, is actually going to stay on Raw, and he'll be by himself for the foreseeable future because his partner Eric and his wife, who's Valhalla, is pregnant. So she just announced their pregnancy on X a couple of days ago. So congratulations to Sarah Logan, aka Valhalla, and Eric of the Viking Raiders, and they will obviously, he's still coming back from injury, and now she's going to be out on maternity leave now. So Ivar will be coming out by himself for the foreseeable future. So we'll see what they do with Ivar at that point. We rounded out with another move. With the last move from SmackDown to Raw, that would be Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, who move to Raw from SmackDown. A tag team that hasn't really done much, so I don't know where they're gonna go with that. But then we get Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler to round out Monday Night Raw's roster. So they all stay there. Then we go over to SmackDown, and there were a couple of additional picks that were announced at the end of after Raw went off the air last night, and I'll get into those. We'll click on the link here to take a look at those. But we'll go over the SmackDown roster here real quick. So Bianca Belair obviously was the number one overall draft pick. I think that was pretty cool for her. You can't go wrong with Bianca Belair. She is the true definition of what you want in a WWE women's superstar. So I think that's a no-brainer. She stays on SmackDown. Carmelo Hayes finally makes the official NXT call-up jump to SmackDown. He will be exclusively on SmackDown, and he had a main event match with Cody Rhodes last Friday night. So they apparently have big things planned for Carmelo Hayes. We'll see where it goes. Randy Orton stays on SmackDown, not surprising. Nia Jax moves over from Raw to SmackDown, and I think that one could have an immediate big impact, and it kind of already did, because she's already inserted herself into the WWE Women's Championship scene with Bayley and Tiffany Stratton. So she's already there. She's already in this whole entire mix now. So that's an immediate impact, and I think that's something that SmackDown needed, was a strong women's heel on the women's roster. So I think that's good for SmackDown. LA Knight was my surprise. I thought for sure LA Knight was going to be Monday Night Raw bound. I felt like on SmackDown, he's pretty much done just about everything he really could there. Although there is one feud they can do, but they still haven't teased it. And so I still don't know if and when they'll do this. But the only reason that I can think he stays on SmackDown is to obviously give them a main event player, because SmackDown doesn't have a lot of them. This was kind of the thing about this draft too, is that the big stars really didn't change brands as much as I maybe would have thought they might have. This was more about shaking up, like kind of like shuffling the roster a little bit, and not really having a major shakeup. So I thought LA Knight could have been a big one to go over to Raw, and they didn't pull the trigger on that. They kept him on SmackDown. So will he be in the title picture against Cody at some point? I don't know. But I'm looking to see if they're going to pull the trigger on a LA Knight and maybe Logan Paul feud at some point, because I feel like there's money to be made there. But other than that, I'm not sure what LA Knight is going to do after that. I feel like maybe there was more potential for him to have a chance to be a world champion on Raw, and put himself into the world heavyweight championship picture. But as far as the WWE championship picture is concerned on SmackDown, I don't know if he fits that mold because Cody is your top babyface, and I would say on SmackDown, arguably LA Knight is your second biggest babyface, maybe next to Randy. So I don't know how you make that work, but we'll see where it goes. The bloodline, the whole bloodline stays. Obviously, Roman Reigns exempted himself from the draft, so he stays on SmackDown. But the whole other rest of the bloodline will also stay on there as it's assembled right now. Tama Tonga, Solo Sikoa, and the wise man Paul Heyman. I would assume Jimmy is still a part of that because he was not announced as a separate draft pick. So I think Jimmy is still going to stay on SmackDown for right now. Of course, he's out with an injury as well too. The injury, the actual real injury bug did hit. I know they rolled off Jimmy on the show, but he actually does have a legit injury, and it hasn't been disclosed what that injury actually is. So it's disappointing to see that he's going to be out for a couple of, well, hopefully just maybe a couple of months and not longer than that, because there's a story to be told there too. But speedy recovery, well wishes to Jimmy Uso as well. But the bloodline is kicking up with their story with Tama Tonga inserted, and Solo Sikoa kind of taking the lead for the Bloodline 2.0. So I'm enjoying where that's going to go. Although I feel like having KO still be a part of this story for like the third separate time, I feel like they might have to do something different soon there. But excited to see Randy and KO versus Tama Tonga and Solo Sikoa. We'll get our first look of in-ring work from WWE in-ring work from Tama Tonga this Saturday on Backlash. So that'll be exciting to see. AJ Styles obviously going to stay on SmackDown. He's the number one contender for Cody's WWE Championship. That match takes place on Saturday. So AJ Styles staying on SmackDown didn't really surprise me there. Andrade actually moving from Raw to SmackDown actually surprised me because I felt like maybe he was building a story there on Raw, and in fact was a part of the main event on Raw. And now he moves to SmackDown, where I'm guessing they'll probably insert him into a feud with the Legado, or they'll continue that Legado del Fantasma, which they ended up staying on SmackDown, as we'll go down the list here. But Andrade moving from Raw to SmackDown was surprising, considering he just debuted on Raw a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see what they do with him on SmackDown. The OC, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I kind of forgot about. And I kind of forgot they were still on the roster. But the OC consists right now of Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and Michin. All stay on SmackDown. And I don't know what the future holds for them. They haven't really done anything since AJ left the group. So I have no idea where they stand right now, or if they'll be doing anything with them anytime soon. Another group that I was surprised about and kind of forgot about too was Ashante the Adonis and Cedric Alexander. I remember they teased that they were a tag team, but I haven't even seen them in tag team action. So it'll be interesting to see if they get any kind of a push here, but they're on SmackDown. Baron Corbin, though, finally making his return to the main roster after being on NXT for the past year. He's been on past over a year, I think he's been on the NXT roster. Did some really, really good reinvention of himself. Got rid of the Happy Corbin gimmick. Went back to the Lone Wolf gimmick, and it did wonders for him on NXT. He was in a really, really badass tag team with Braun Breaker, the Wolf Dogs. They were tag team champions for a little bit there, but now they're on separate brands. WWE apparently has separate plans for them as single stars, and a repackage could be coming again for Baron Corbin before he debuts back on SmackDown. But say what you will about Baron Corbin, but Baron Corbin has been one of the most consistent superstars over the past couple of years, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Baron Corbin. Regardless of whether or not people think he's super mid-card or whatever, I think Baron Corbin being back on the main roster will be a good thing for SmackDown. Jade Cargill stays on SmackDown. I would have been shocked. That would have shocked me if she would have moved to Raw, because they made a big deal about signing her to a SmackDown contract. But either way, she's drafted to SmackDown. She stays on SmackDown. So her and Bianca Belair will continue their tag team. And this Saturday at Backlash as well, they'll be competing for the women's tag team championships against Damage Control. So against Kabuki Warriors of Damage Control. So that, I think, will begin their championship run of dominance. I think they're going to hold those women's tag team titles for however they decide they want to. That's an opportunity, I think, there. If you do the tag team with Jade and Bianca and they win the titles, you can have them ride that for a couple of months, right? If you want to. And then as we get towards kind of maybe one of the bigger ones, maybe like Survivor Series, something like that, you can start teasing the breakup, and maybe Bianca finally pushes over to a heel turn, and then you could have the clash of the Titans there between Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill at some point. We have to see that match at some point. I think that's super big money. But Jade Cargill stays on SmackDown. Kevin Owens stays on SmackDown, so he's continuing his feud with the Bloodline, so we'll see where that goes there. Kevin Owens is always one of my favorite guys, and I hope that at some point he gets out of this Bloodline hell and they give him something a little bit more with substance, but only time will tell. The Pride, that consists of Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, stay on SmackDown. That's a good thing, because that rivalry between them and the Final Testament is finally over, and now they're on separate brands, so we never have to see that again. And now they can do something different, and in fact, they will be competing for the WWE Tag Team Championships at some point against Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. So that's cool. That'll be a cool matchup there whenever that they decide to pull the trigger on that. Tiffany Stratton, who's the hottest women's superstar on SmackDown right now, her rise is she's on fire right now. So her staying on SmackDown is a smart thing, and I personally think that the WWE Women's Championship for her is going to come sooner than later. Legado del Fantasma, like I explained earlier, is also going to stay on SmackDown. Shinsuke Nakamura moves from Raw to SmackDown. That's a good pick, because there's not really much you could do with them on Raw, because he's lost to just about everybody on Raw at this point. So sucks, because Shinsuke Nakamura is so good, and I love Shinsuke Nakamura, but I don't see anything other than unless we are gonna get another Shinsuke Nakamura versus Cody Rhodes feud, this time for the WWE Championship. Although I don't think they should do it. Cody Rhodes already beat him multiple times. But either way, new stories and new matchups for Shinsuke Nakamura on SmackDown. So not much more he could do on the Raw brand. So that makes sense there. Naomi stays on SmackDown. So that keeps the trio of Bianca, Naomi, and Jade Cargill together. So good stuff there. Blair Davenport makes the NXT call up to the SmackDown women's roster, and she was the only one that came from NXT to SmackDown. So it'll be interesting to see how Blair Davenport is used on the SmackDown women's roster, because they just lost all of Damage Control, which consisted of 3 really good players there in Dakota Kai and the Kabuki Warriors. And Blair Davenport, I feel can almost make an immediate impact there, depending on how they use her. So that's a good call-up for her. She should be very excited. I'm sure she'll get plenty of chances in TV time to build up her character there. Chelsea Green and Piper Niven surprisingly move from Raw to SmackDown. So there's a new tag team on SmackDown. So now Chelsea Green can go and annoy Nick Aldis every week instead of Adam Pearce. The unfortunate part of that one is that we are no longer gonna hear Samantha Irvin's Chelsea Green anymore, because she's not on Raw. So that's gonna be extremely disappointing that we're not gonna get that anymore. But I think it's a good thing for Chelsea Green and Piper Niven on SmackDown. I think they'll get a chance to spread their wings a little bit there. Pretty Deadly stays on SmackDown. And then the whole group of The Way that consists of Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell, and DIY all move to SmackDown. So another women's tag team moves over to SmackDown to booster to help negate the loss of Damage Control. And so the women's roster on SmackDown actually looks a lot different than what it did last week. So I think there was good changes there. It kind of shakes things up there, and you have the potential for a lot of different matchups there. Do you have any kind of big contenders there? I guess it remains to be seen. That's what Nia Jax comes over for. But I think there's some meat on the bone with the Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell story, and Chelsea Green and Piper Niven coming over should make things very, very interesting there. And then, of course, DIY being added to that to the SmackDown roster helps that tag team division change things up a little bit, because the New Catch Republic, I believe they also have moved over to Raw. So those are your two rosters there as they shake up after the draft. Let's click on this link here because there were a couple of additional picks that were done after Raw went off the air. So let's go over those because I don't think that they were all on here. But let's take a look and see who else was on here. Well, this says Dijak. Dijak was added to the roster. I know that for sure. So Dijak, who had previously been on the main roster as a part of this is a throwback, and this was really, really bad. As part of the failed faction Retribution, and he moved him back to NXT, and they repackaged him as Dijak, and he has been one of the stars of the NXT brand, and his rebranding has been almost perfect, to be honest. And so Dijak getting the call up, much deserved, to Raw should be very, very, very interesting. I feel like there may be a couple more, but I can't see. Let's go to WWE's X account and let's see if we can see what let's see if we can see. Oh, look, we got NXT going. I forgot that NXT Spring Break in Night 2 is actually taking place right now. Ridge Holland beat Shawn Spears in a match. I'll probably need to go back and watch that. Street Profits were on there tonight. Oh, that's right. We're having there's the new there's the battle that's going to take place for the new women's NXT North American Championship. So it'll be interesting. Oh, Michin apparently has showed up on NXT tonight. So I guess she's going to put her cards in. I was just talking about her a minute ago when I said I don't know what the OC is going to be up to, but that's cool. Ava announced that they'll crown the first ever women's North American champion in a ladder match at NXT Battleground, which surprisingly is going to take place in the UFC little COVID arena thing that they built out there in Las Vegas. And I'm interested to see what the layout of that's going to look like. So we'll see what that looks like when it happens. But that's cool. That's a hell of a way to crown a new women's champion in a ladder match. That's something that I feel like maybe instead of the Battle Royal, that's something they should have done for the Raw, for the World Women's Championship. Maybe they should have done something like a ladder match or something like that instead of the Battle Royal. So I'll be interested to see that when NXT Battleground hits. Oh, look, there you go. I mean, I was just talking about the OC, and they were on Spring Breaking tonight as well. They took on the new tag team apparently, and they picked up the win. So all of the OC was on was on NXT tonight. So cool. Underground match. Oh, geez, I have no interest in that. Fallon Henley, apparently. Oh, okay, Fallon Henley, I see you. Thea Hale had a match against JCJ. It's not really exactly what I'm looking for. Wes Lee had returned. Look at that. That's breaking news, guys. As we go on, Wes Lee from NXT, former North American champion Wes Lee, who had to vacate that title because of a back injury that was going to keep him out for quite some time, evidently has returned. So Obafemi has got a new contender here in the former NXT North American champion. So Wes Lee is back. All right. He took down Ivar. I need to go back and watch that match. Apparently that was pretty good. Trick Williams and Obafemi with the stare down. That could be a future NXT championship match. I think I'd like to see that. Trick Williams as the new NXT champion should be really, really good. I'm really, really looking forward to that. But let's see if I can go back here real quick. I'm trying to see if I can. Oh, I forgot about that tag team match too. The AOP's going after the NXT championships, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won them. But let's see if we can go back here. I'm trying to see if I can make sure that we got the draft picks from yesterday all situated before I leave y'all here. Another piece of breaking news: Drew McIntyre has signed a new contract. He evidently signed a new 3-year, I think a 3-year or 5-year. I'm not sure if it's a 3-year or a 5-year contract, but big money contract to stay with WWE. So good for him. Good for the WWE. Oh, look, here we go. Here's probably a better image. See if I can get that on the screen here. This is probably what I should have led with on the screen instead of what I had. This is probably a better looking screen anyways. I don't know if y'all can see that very well. It probably looks kind of, because of all this over here, it probably looks kind of wonky. Here we go. I'll stretch it. There we go. Now it probably looks better. So the ones that I missed that I think weren't on the cage fight list was, let's go through Raw again, see if there's any that I missed. CM Punk said that, LWO, Drew McIntyre, Judgment Day, Lava Valkyria, Final Testament, blah 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 blah. Natalia's on Raw. Okay, great. Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, the Party Girls stay on Raw. Odyssey Jones, who was one of the Raw picks from last year that they didn't really do anything with, is was the Mr. Irrelevant pick. He was the last pick on Twitter last night, so that was kind of funny. Dijak, like I said, the Creed brothers and Ivy now stay on Raw, and New Catch Republic, like I said, they stay on Raw as well. Oh, they moved to Raw. Excuse me, they moved to Raw. So let's go. Let's click on the SmackDown one. There we go. And the SmackDown one that I missed, let's see. Going through the list now just to make sure. Okay, yeah. It was Apollo Crews that was apparently on the Raw roster. Is now on SmackDown, but I haven't seen him in quite some time, so I don't know if we'll see him. Giovanni Vinci, who got kicked out of Imperium a week ago, is now on SmackDown. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what they do with the Giovanni Vinci singles run. He had a small singles run in NXT that actually was pretty popular. So we'll see if they bring that gimmick from NXT back as he moves into a singles run on SmackDown. And then it rounds out with Tegan Nox, who moves from Raw to SmackDown. So the SmackDown women's roster gets a little bit of a boost. But as far as top boost, I mean, Nia Jax is probably the biggest one there. But we'll just have to see how that goes. So this Saturday, I know that this Saturday is Backlash. And let's just go and see I want to say as of right now, there's only 4 matches on that card from France, and we'll go to cage side seats for this one, and we'll see. As it stands right now, we have the WWE Championship match between Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. We got Damian Priest versus Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. We got the women's WWE Women's Championship, the triple threat match. This should be really, really good. Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. I don't think that Tiffany should win this yet, but I think she should be able to show out. I also would not be mad if they decided to pull that trigger, but I don't think, not yet. The women's tag team championship match, like I said, the Kabuki Warriors versus Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. And then the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I would assume that maybe by the end of Friday, they add another match for Saturday. But as of right now, yeah, there's only 5 matches on the card for Backlash. So my assumption would be is that most of these matches are going to get a lot of time, which is a good thing. Probably be 6 matches, I would have to assume. So they'll probably add one more on Friday. But both heavyweight championships, world championships, are going to be defended, so that's kind of cool. No mid card championships will be defended though. No intercontinental and no U.S. title matches, and no men's tag team matches, title matches as well. So we'll see if they add something on Friday, maybe another title match or just another match in general. But just the way this card is right now, it should be pretty good. I mean, I don't foresee very many title changes here except for one, but should be pretty good. Unfortunately, right now, like I said, Tribal Cheese and Mr. Zero are not on the show right now. I don't know when they will both be returning. Hopefully, it'll be sooner than later. So prediction shows are really not going to be in the same format. So I guess I continue to remain the SPP World Champion for now until somebody defends me until I get somebody to defend it against. But that doesn't mean that I can't give my predictions here and that y'all can't give your predictions in the comments as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give my predictions now for this card before I get out of here. So we'll start from the bottom to the top. Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. As hot as they are with this new story, I personally believe that the Bloodline should win that tag team match. The women's tag team championship between the Kabuki Warriors and Bianca Belair and Cargill. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair should beat the Kabuki Warriors. I'm interested, very, very, very interested in seeing a tag team run between those two ladies. So I think they'll win. Bayley in the triple threat match, I think Bayley will retain. She'll probably pin Naomi. Naomi will probably be the one to take the pin, and I'm sure Tiffany Stratton will look very, very, very strong. So we'll see how it goes there. Although I think the big money is going to be with a one-on-one match between Bayley and Tiffany Stratton sometime down the road, but they obviously don't want to put her in that one-on-one situation yet, so they're going with the triple threat format, I guess. But that's why I got Bayley. World Heavyweight Championship, Damian Priest versus main event Jey Uso. My heart wants to say that Jey wins his World Championship match here. He wins the big one here. But I think as long as the Bloodline is on the show, is in the arena, shenanigans, I think, play a big part in this. And of course, you also have the Judgment Day too. So all of that will be against Jey Uso in this match. I think Damian Priest retains, and they find a way to forward the potential Jimmy and Jay versus Solo and Tama Tonga somewhere down the road. I think that's a way to further it. But I think Damian Priest retains, And then, of course, on the WWE Championship match, the reign of Cody Rhodes is not going to end against AJ Styles. I'm sure they'll put on an amazing match because those two guys are two of the best workers in the business today. But I don't think that Cody's going to lose the title to AJ Styles. So this is kind of an easy one to predict. There's only 5 matches on the card. If they do add one on Friday, I'll try to put on the community tab. What my prediction is for that match. But as the card stands like that, that's what I think. And I honestly don't. I even think if Cheese was here, I don't think we would have very many different picks here, anyways. So I think I would retain my championship by default, just because there's not very many surprises I think that can happen here. Although WWE could decide to do it, but the draft rosters just changed, and all the matches on the card have nothing to do with the roster changes, except for the Kabuki Warriors. If the Kabuki Warriors lose, obviously they just stay on Raw now. But if they win, they can continue to float between both shows. But if Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill win, they're now able to float between both shows as long as they're champions. So that makes things interesting for that. But everybody else that's in matches is staying where they are, regardless of whether or not they win or lose championships. Although I'm very, very interested to see. I'm assuming just by default in the event, like let's just say for shits and giggles, if like Tiffany Stratton beat Bayley or AJ Styles beat Cody, I would assume, or like if any of these champions lost, right, from the 3 singles titles matches, I would assume they just stay on the brand that they were at. I don't think that they would be free agents after that because they were not eligible to be drafted. But after they lose their titles, do they just stay on the show that they currently are, or do they move to, or do they have the opportunity to go to the other show if they want to? Either way, I guess we'll find out. But yeah, guys, as far as the draft was concerned, the picks are interesting, but I do feel like some changes, like I said at the beginning of the show, need to be made to the draft to make it a little bit more exciting. It was kind of a meh draft, to be honest. The format doesn't really work for me. I know they were trying to capitalize on doing it the same weekend as the NFL draft, but there's a way to do it, and there's a way I think that they can keep the format they want, but make it more exciting. I just feel like there wasn't the excitement there that there has been in the past. Like, the anxiety that you feel like the superstars have, going into the draft, and the fact that there were no really huge names that got drafted, I think are pretty big. So I think kind of kept this from being a really, really good draft. And so, it was a good draft. I wouldn't call it a terrible draft, but not one of their best ones, I think. So, and the fact that NXT, who I thought was going to be a part of this draft, didn't get anybody. They just got people taken away from them. So I don't know what happens to NXT now, that they've lost a lot of their big time stars to the main roster, and none of them went back down. So either way, I feel like there was a missed opportunity here to do something different, and they just went with the same status quo as last year. Not very many people changed rosters, and this is where we'll go. Maybe throughout the week or something, maybe we might get some trades or something, but we'll see where it goes. We'll see if maybe some of these shakeups that happened actually make big impacts in due time. But as far as the big time superstars, they all kind of stayed where they were. The big one, though, I think, is Cody will officially only be on SmackDown now. He is no longer going to be on Raw. They was made clear that the WWE Championship will stay on SmackDown, and so will Cody Rhodes, regardless of whether or not he wins or loses the title, right, or whatever. He stays on SmackDown. So I think that's a huge blow for Monday Night Raw. And it's already kind of starting to show that the star power on Monday Night Raw is very, very diminished because of that change, Cody going over to SmackDown, and the injury bug that has hit all of the main superstars on Raw. Seth Rollins is out for an extended period of time. Drew McIntyre is currently dealing with a hyperextended elbow. CM Punk is still coming back from his triceps injury. I mean, the biggest stars on Raw right now are Jey Uso and Damian Priest. And that's why they're having that match between the two of those guys. So it'll be interesting to see what the big main event scene happens for Raw and how that affects things like the ratings and the popularity, because there's a lot of injuries. And so they need those guys to start coming back from injury, and hopefully Gunther is hopefully going to get a push here, maybe to that next level as well here pretty soon. But we'll see how things go. But let me know what y'all guys thought about the roster changes and everything in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon on this video so that you can make sure that you get the notifications whenever we decide to go live. As it stands right now, like I said, guys, I don't know what the format's going to look like in the future. I know that right now, immediately, at least for the next couple of shows, just going to be a solo show with me. I'm going to try to see if I can book some special guests to maybe get a little bit more flavor, because I'm sure you just don't want to sit here hearing me talk for over an hour. So unless you do, then maybe we might change the format here. But I like doing this show with my colleagues, and I miss them, and I hope that they come back soon. But like I said, I'm going to try to see if maybe for future shows, for right now, if I can maybe book some special guests to come on the show, then maybe we'll do that too. And we'll kind of shake things up around here as well. But for now, this is what we'll do. So hopefully after Saturday's show is over, Backlash starts at noon Central Time here where I'm at. So as soon as the show's over, I'm hoping that maybe I can go on back on here and go over what happened, the results of Backlash, and where we go from here. So that's hopefully when the next time I'll be back here on Saturday afternoon. Try to do a live then, and then maybe try to have a couple of other different kinds of videos on here. But yes, please, thank you for watching. Click the like and the bell icons, and subscribe if you haven't. You're missing out. Even though it's a solo show, you're still missing out, because you still got the champ Johnny T here on the show for right now. But sometimes maybe that's all you need. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here, and y'all guys have a great rest of your night, and I'll see y'all guys next time. Bye, everyone. Woo! Now, if I can just get out of here, guys. I always have trouble with this. I always try to do an outro, and I always have